Gary England. This is Newsline 9.
It shows up on thousands of television sets every day. But what do you know about how it gets there? Newsline 9 comes to you from this tower, which, when it was built in 1953, was the tallest structure in the world. But getting a newscast to this tower involves a staggering amount of man-hours and machinery.
How much of the roof collapsed?
The heart of the operation is the newsroom, a place to monitor what's going on, plot how to cover it, and sometimes pull out your hair trying to get it on the air. The broadcast is done from a studio, set aside just for the newscast.
Take 4.
And it takes a control room full of people able to shuffle pictures and sound around with split-second timing.
Come back to them there, toss it to right.
A newscast takes a fleet of cars, microwave trucks able to send live television from the field. And in a state as big as Oklahoma, it helps to have a helicopter.
Ranger 9 is 10-8, 10-9.
A newscast takes reporters, good reporters who can think on their feet and write. It takes photographers, adept at sharing their ability to see the world. And it takes people willing to wade into situations.
Pack it up. They did use the third alarm units that came out here, so
Well, I didn't get anything. You know, I got some firemen in one apartment.
See, you're ready, right?
A newscast takes managers to give it direction and mission, assignment people to deploy crews where they'll count, and specialists, people who do one thing very well.
Looking for the big storm. That is an imposter. He's trying to pretend he's real and he's only about 30,000 feet high.
A newscast takes producers who can put programs on under pressure, tape editors, tape operators, and engineers who can keep it all operating. And it seems to work best when you have people who get a kick out of pooling their talents.
Why is that?
What's that?
Why does no football player or coach like to use the word revenge? They'll never say revenge.
It's inflammatory.
There
Well,
you
they
go.
say we have a score to settle or something like that.
They never even say that. Now, Classman will play at Ardmore.
It takes all that and much more to get a newscast to your home. Tomorrow, in Part 2, I'll tell you how we do some of the things we do. And I'll tell you why Gary England never wears a green tie.
Cure. I'm Stephanie Frederick in South Oklahoma City.
Taking you to events live as they happen is one of the things television does best. To do that, we send a live truck driven by an engineer. At the scene, the engineer strings cables and raises a microwave antenna on top of a tall mast. About all it takes to block the signal from a live truck is a nice shade tree. That's why the antennas that receive live signals from the field are up here, on top of the KWTV tower.
Stand by to go to live to Los Angeles.
The Reagan celebration, Mike?
Kim.
Roger, we are coming to you live by satellite from the Century Plaza Hotel.
Okay.
More and more, we go live from anywhere in the nation. This large dish in our parking lot automatically locates the proper satellite in orbit and locks on to the signal.
Go ahead.
This is how I was able to bring you live reports from the Republican convention in Dallas and originate our newscast from Washington. Satellites have become an important part of news gathering. In fact, here at TV9, we've just installed 2 more dishes. One of our most versatile tools is kept just a few feet outside our newsroom. Powered by a jet engine, Ranger 9 can speed toward a story at 125 miles per hour. When we scramble him, Leo Galanis can have the helicopter in the air and on its way in 4 to 5 minutes.
Oklahoma City will be 100 years old.
558 to Ranger 9. We are 3 minutes away from your shot. 3 minutes.
Chamber of Commerce thinks Oklahoma City should have some...
To go live from Ranger 9, a photographer rides in the left seat to get shots of Leo and the ground. The pictures are beamed back to the station by a transmitter located on one of the skids.
558 to Ranger 9. We are 30 seconds away. 30.
Fire is still raging at this hour after an oil well blowout southeast of Enid.
Leo Galanis is live in Ranger 9 with details of that blowout. Leo?
Patty, Roger, the oil blowout happened at Covington, Oklahoma.
We have 15
The
seconds
blowout
of
was
video.
caused by
Leo must fly the helicopter, keep the signal pointed toward the station, stay over the story, and think about what he's saying to you all at the same time.
Here Covington in Ranger 9 Live. This is Leo Goanis for Newsline 9.
We're clear on you, Ranger 9. Thank you very much. You can power down.
Ranger 9 is a great platform for shooting pictures, but we use it at least as much for rushing crews to distant stories. And it's extremely valuable when we assist in searches for missing people. It's quite a machine, and it's quite a sight to see Leo land after each trip on the tiny platform used to move the helicopter.
Roll 7, fade it down and out, take 7.
If you could be with us in the studio during the newscast, you'd notice something very unusual about Gary's weather. The weather maps don't exist, at least not in the studio, just Gary and this green board. The maps are inserted into the picture electronically by a piece of equipment that operates on the color green. Anywhere it sees green in the picture, the device substitutes another picture, in this case, the weather maps. Gary knows where to point by using a monitor just off camera. Just for grins, I asked Gary to do something he never does. Put on a green tie.
That's reasonable. And on the satellite tonight, what we have is a lot of chroma key. In fact, it's appearing on my tie. We could check, what do we want to check? Let's check, we can check right there. It's Memphis, Tennessee. We can move over just a little bit right in here, and we can check, there's Dallas, Texas. How's that for magic?
The best way to show you how we cover a story is to take you along on one, start to finish. You're to have it ready for today's 5 o'clock newscast, and the clock is running. The assignment is to cover an auction, which will sell off the office equipment of the old John A. Brown Company. And the assignment goes to reporter Gan Matthews and photographer Jim Lipscomb. Gan and Jim get to the auction just after 9 a.m. After nosing around a bit to get the lay of the land, Jim is taping pictures and Gan is gathering in facts and impressions. To be honest, this could be a pretty ho-hum assignment. But a good reporter, and Gan is one, can almost always find something genuinely interesting.
Remember that one old guy I was talking to?
Yeah, he'd be real.
Gan picks up a sense of nostalgia as artifacts of a community institution are auctioned away piece by piece. And that is what he sets out to capture. If the story is to work well, Jim and Gan have to talk with each other and stay on the same wavelength as Jim looks for shots that will tell the story. What's the holdup, you ask? The tape recorder, camera, and light all run on batteries, which have just run down. Be grateful. It usually happens in the middle of your best interview. Getting the shots in interviews takes a lot longer than most people realize. It takes hours to collect shots that will last only seconds on the air.
It's a sad time with Johnny Brown.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad time.
But by late morning, Gan and Jim are wrapped up. Gan is back at the station by 2 o'clock and checks in with the newscast producer.
I went fine. Got lots of auction-type video and talked to a couple of the people who were there looking for bargains. Got one of them to talk about how, you know, this is not merely a place to find a good bargain, but it's also sort of an exercise in nostalgia.
His next step is to review the tape shot that morning. Jim has given him some nice shots that say things about the kind of people who were there. And then, Gan sits down to write the story, making sure the words in the pictures work together.
Why don't you say something in the intro about the end of an era?
Okay.
One of the leading Oklahoma chains. And whenever I look at the scripts.
Test it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Brown's auction, 5 o'clock, coming down in 3, 2, 1. The ground rules were, let the buyer beware. Please have your cash checkbook or credit card in hand.
Because everything is going.
The story is now in Jim's hands as he sits before an editing machine, combining the best of his pictures with Gan's narration.
114. Thank you very much.
How much script is the second?
Mark, I want to have OC.
And with just minutes till airtime, Jim races the edited tape down the hall to the tape playback room.
This is Newsline 9.
Stand by.
Another Oklahoma business name, John A. Brown, is disappearing. In fact, part of Brown's business was auctioned off today. As Gan Matthews reports, the auction also marked the passing of an era.
Number 6 is to oscillating fan.
The ground rules were that the buyer beware. Please have your cash, checkbook, or credit card in hand, because everything is going.
The morning starts with the squeak of a felt-tip pen as assignment editor Mike Sims puts up the day's assignments. It continues with a slam of car doors as reporters and photographers head into the field.
558 Leo.
Throughout the day, Mike will be in radio and phone contact with the crews, keeping track of which stories are working out and which may have to be changed or dropped.
We are waiting on that other part of the crane to arrive before they can actually begin assembling it.
Okay.
In this business, everything is subject to change.
Okay, I-35 and 36. Okay. Godfrey crashed with injury, ending of a high-speed chase. Still may have a suspect down on the ground in that area.
It's either, you know...
Also eagerly monitoring the day's coverage as it shapes up are the producers, one for each newscast. The producer's job is to take everything that comes into the newsroom and pull it together into a newscast that will inform and be easy to follow. The whole effort is coordinated each day in what is affectionately called the 2 o'clock meeting. All those overseeing the day's coverage get together in the news director's office to exchange information.
The truck crackdown, Oklahoma Highway Patrol is putting out over 100 sets of scales. They're trying to find out how many overweight illegal trucks are coming through the state on these back roads. This is especially timely in light of the trooper death over the weekend.
It was a stolen truck, right? I mean,
It was
I'm glad you said that, because that confuses me. The bed of it was stolen.
Yeah.
He was a truck driver. It wasn't
He
just
was a
because he had
truck
stolen
driver,
his truck.
But the trailer he was hauling was stolen.
By the way, if you still have delusions that this is a glamour business, note the lavish lunch executive producer Kim Beal is having.
Where are you going from there?
I'm like 15 seconds light right now, but if I lose the Potawatomi County Commissioners,
All right, now let's go.
then I'll have an on-camera kicker to close out the show.
It's through this interchange of ideas that we decide what we should carry, in what order, and with what emphasis.
All right, well then, let's go make it happen.
By mid-afternoon, when the reporters start returning, any calm in the newsroom goes out the window as people on a deadline scramble to write their stories, get into the audio booth, and compete for editing machines. The newscast will go on the air at 5 o'clock, whether we're ready or not.
The time, the pressure of time, it literally comes down to fighting, you know, for every minute you can just to try and get the story together.
John Deering reporting.
That's the out cue? Is the lead story done yet? Do you know? It's on hepatitis follow?
No, it's not done yet.
Okay. Would you check on that for me, please? Also,
Manny Kim. What? Yeah, I'm done.
My favorite description of it is by Eric Severide. Doing television news on a deadline, he said, is like being pecked to death by ducks.
And you know, every day you'll leave worn out and uptight, but that's part of the job.
So why do people do it? Partly because it can be fun, even exciting. You get to go places, meet people, and see things you'd never get to otherwise. But more than that, it's one of the few jobs where it's in your power to make a difference. Do your job well, and you can see drunk driving laws changed, attention focused on the plight of a transplant patient, or action taken to fight hunger in the community or in an entire nation. It can all happen because of a newscast. And tomorrow, in Part 5, it goes on the air. Gary spends his afternoons working at his weather computer, preparing the maps and graphics you'll see later. Note the 5-day forecast in its primitive form. John Snyder is reviewing sports footage just received by satellite. but he could just as likely be in Norman or Stillwater doing sports interviews.
12 on that.
And unless we're on special projects, Patty and I work on the newscast.
About 4:30 each afternoon, I switched gears from working on the newscast to getting ready to deliver the newscast.
That preparation includes makeup, even for males. The lights are so bright, you need it to look normal. After picking up our scripts, Patty and I head for the set, which is just around the wall from the newsroom.
Searching for 49-year-old Augustus M. Haley and 33-year-old Kevin John
Boy
Redding.
Scouts who camped at the Army.
We both have a habit of pre-reading our scripts aloud, double-checking for clearness and pronunciation.
Test Rogers, Mike, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Stand by on 1 on a 2 shot.
And now, Oklahoma's news leaders.
Stand by on 2.
The newscast goes on, and this time it's for real.
And Oklahoma's #1 meteorologist, Gary England. This is Newsline 9.
Good evening. Staggering.
This is what it's like to look into the business end of a television camera. Hundreds of thousands of people are on the other side of that camera, but the feeling I get out there is still one of talking to individuals. You see only the 4 of us, but no fewer than 15 people working flat out are involved in the newscast while it's on the air. At least 5 people in the control room, 2 videotape operators, 1 person to play news stories back, an engineer, and 3 camera operators in the studio.
Shooting power down and myriad live shot car 21 power up.
On top of all that, several live trucks are likely to be at remote locations, and our helicopter circling over a story waiting to go live. Controlling the flow of it all isn't easy. The ideal producer would have 3 ears, so they could talk on more phones at once. Throughout the broadcast, the producer is watching the clock and getting us signals to speed up or slow down to keep the show on time. When something goes wrong, a tape's not ready or a live shot falls through, the producer can alert us and we can correct for it. Patty and I wear almost invisible molded earpieces that allow the producer to talk to us even when we're talking on the air.
Let's kill page 5, please. We're going to take 6 next. Roger, you go ahead and read it to Melinda, and she'll pick up the next one.
When we look into the lens, we can see our scripts on a teleprompter. A copy of the script moves along a conveyor belt, passing under a tiny TV camera. The television picture of the pages going by is reflected in a pane of clear glass over the lens.
Take 1.
A home they can call their own. That is the dream of many Americans, including a lot of Oklahomans.
It's a very helpful device when it's working, but it's a real thrill to be on camera and have the prompter take off in reverse, which occasionally happens.
Anything particular going on there?
No, it's just nice. It's going to be a little windy tomorrow.
What do we do between the times we talk? Prepare for what's coming up or watch the stories, just like you do, talking about what we like and don't like. It's a job made a lot easier when you genuinely like the people you're out there with. When it's all clicking, it's a lot of fun. The anatomy of this newscast is already changing, even as we've looked at it in this series. In a few days, we'll be preparing it from new quarters. Growth is carrying us into a brand new building. But the goal of the newscast will be the same.
What's the best thing about doing television?
Oh, I think when you walk away after a show and you feel like you got the message to the folks at home in a good, friendly, warm, wonderful, and informative manner.
Does that mean you enjoy it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
We all do. That's why we're here.
We do.
I got to acknowledge Rich Kriegel, a photographer on this series. He went right along with me up the tower. He shot with me 36 tapes, and he spent several all-nighters, as we call them, editing all night long here at the station. Thanks, Rich, and thanks to all the staff here who let me catch them off guard.
Yeah, good job. Enjoyed it. So that's how we do it.
Yep.